So good morning, everybody. So that's Professor Nadia Idri from Béjaïa, Algeria. I'm glad to join you today in this international convention, the TESOL International Convention of 2022 that takes place in the United States. So let me introduce the topic. So as a panelist, I'm representing my country, Algeria, to talk about teacher agency in a time of crisis, EFL Algerian teachers' disposition. So, teacher agency is a teacher's commitment to achieve teaching and learning goals. It is a prerequisite to agency and professional disposition. The problem in teacher agency as a concept is a multifaceted concept. That's why we are showing the interest in taking agency in terms of taking actions, taking initiatives, contribute in changing practices, all in all, to make things happen or to make things changed. We adopted the La France 2022 definition of teacher agency. That means the capacity of teachers to act purposefully, to direct their professional growth, find solutions to challenges they face, and improve their practices. Again, for teacher agency, we are taking teacher agency from its three dimensions as presented by Priestley all in 2015 on the one hand, and relating it to teacher dispositions on the other, where we take the source from Welch in 2015 as well. For the dimensions of teacher agency, so we take things related to how past experiences are rooted in the teacher's life and how the teacher envisages future possibilities and how the teacher takes action. As for teaching disposition, so we think that the teacher is seen as an expert or we consider the cognitive presence of the teacher as a social presence because there is a social relationship with his or her environment, and finally the pedagogic or the teaching presence, which is part of his duties and objectives while teaching. For this, in order to link our idea of the dimensions of teacher agency, so we can invite people to watch the workshops done by Imperial EOL in 2021, where they worked on a number of or series of workshops related to exploring teacher identity and agency through the tree of life approach. It is really related to the dimensions we have just tackled. In order to put this into practice and mirror out what our teachers think or deal with teacher agency and teaching disposition, we have conducted a survey with 82 teachers from middle schools, high schools, and private schools in Algeria. We had the following objectives. First, finding the attitudes towards teaching and school environment, teaching practices, teacher strengths, and relation to the profession, and finally, hopes for the future for these teachers. The methodology we have used, we designed a self-completion questionnaire we call the ESL-EFL-TAQ. So 82 teachers participated in this survey, so the methodology is quantitative. As for the results, let's talk first about this sample. If you have a look at this diagram, you might see that females are 72% compared to males. In Algeria, this is something natural because the teaching profession is more gender specific and many females prefer working in teaching, mainly when dealing with foreign languages. As for the age, it is also related to the demographic characteristic of the Algerian context because Algeria is known to be a youth population. That's why you can find that most of the population is young. So we have between 21 to 40 years old. That makes the majority of our respondents. We have only 8.5% of the teachers who are above 50. And when dealing with their experiences, this, of course, goes hand in hand with the age range. So we have most of the participants have more than 4 years of experience, with the minority that have more than 30 years of experience, which is only 2.5%. Of course, the results are really interesting. I would like to invite the listener to have a look at the blue and the red colors, because these show the positive side of the results, where we have the highly agree and the agree options. You can look at the diagram and see that the blue and red colors here are emerging, and these show that teachers' individual qualities are really high. Only few teachers have negative attitude towards few aspects whose number varies between 1 to 10 participants. They think that they have negative attitudes only towards reaching satisfaction in their profession and leadership, or they have some negative attitude about the school, the education system, and the role of the community. But most of the teachers think positive about themselves, and this is something promising. As for the environmental and contextual factors, you can see the disagree and highly disagree options emerge here, with the neutral for most of the questions. And here, most of the questions are related to the school environment or the system as a whole. So we can see that teachers can have positive as they can have negative attitudes. Questions can show exactly what elements include the negative side of this diagram. The third element is the pedagogical challenges, and here again we have the highly agree and agree options that emerge because people agree that they meet a lot of pedagogical challenges. And finally, the fourth part, which is related directly to the COVID-19 pandemic, and we asked the teachers to just answer the questions according to that period of time. So the teacher and the pandemic, here again, we find that many teachers highly agree about the problems they faced during the pandemic. As for the discussions, so all in all, the results show that almost all the respondents believe in their qualities and have positive attitudes towards themselves, and the majority have positive attitudes towards their school and their teaching context, but less towards the education system in Algeria. So the disagree and highly disagree most of the time are related to the education system and to the school, maybe textbooks. Let's give examples of what teachers said, because we offered some frame for expression by the end of the survey to let them share their views by writing. So one teacher wrote, "The educational system in Algeria does not help at all the best way of teaching, as it is just copied and pasted from the backward French system." So this can be one of the maybe the causes why our system is still not moving forward. A case in point is what a teacher declared is teaching EFL in Algeria requires synergetic efforts both from teachers, community, and program founders, as it is highly needed to consider all the facts that may shape the traits of a successful individual, the one who makes challenges, learns autonomously, thinks critically, takes risks, creates new ideas, and embodies them seamlessly with his peers and community as well. Of course, we need also to add more information about what teachers think, because they think that most of the Algerian textbooks, especially in the secondary school level, are outdated and they must be updated as soon as possible. Those of the middle school are disfavored by most of the teachers. They claim that these books are beyond the pupils' levels at this stage. And finally, there are some opportunities in secondary schools for professional developments, and thanks God for that. For example, there is a peer classroom visits, inspector visits, and internal seminars and school pedagogical meetings. They are invaluable opportunities for communicating teaching experiences and practices and helping novice teachers. Hence, for teachers to develop their teacher agency, they need to follow the following recommendations. They all suggested that there is an urgent need for change. change in terms of the curricula and the syllabi, change in terms of the textbooks which are outdated and they do not respond to the learner's needs and interests, change in terms of materials and tools because they need updated materials and tools that might cope with the ICT and technology need of nowadays globalized world, and teachers' self-awareness, autonomy, leadership and self-efficacy that may the identity of the teacher needs to be also developed and discovered through the teacher development and professional development. Again, with the pandemic, there was an urgent need to develop ICT and technology use in order to maybe find solutions to the challenges and carry on working even with the remote or the hybrid way of learning. And finally, teacher development or professional development should all the time be at the heart of the teaching profession. As for the professional development, so teachers suggested that they need workshops by experts at a national and an international level. Teachers also need to be seen as experts and practitioners because they need to be partners. And this is related to what we call the recognition of their expertise. Teachers as action researchers, and here we need to implement teachers in the participatory research. And of course, this is shown in the Tree of Life approach we have already talked about. Finally, we need to think about professional development in terms of putting teachers at the heart of change. And this is through the future project and the development and the implementation of these projects. To conclude, since the concept of agency implies teachers' willingness, ability, and engagement in acting and making well-versed decisions during the teaching process and planning for future actions, it is paramount for them to think educationally, contribute to better education, develop their digital agency, be allowed to change. And here we refer to adaptability, experience, change of perspectives. Example, the sudden change we got with the COVID-19 pandemic, and diversify their resources. So here we opt for Damsay-Hall 2021 theoretical model, who says that a theoretical model is elucidated in which teachers' agency is understood as the willingness to engage in interactional, practical, evaluative, and projective and transformative action despite the existence of practical, personal, and institutional constraints. And here you see that we have the idea of the teaching practices and personal qualities and the institutional or the contextual factors we have opted in our survey. To end, we need to quote a number of claims teachers shared with us at the end of the survey regarding teacher agency and disposition. One teacher said, "I hope to see radical changes in the near future about our education system in terms of materials and content." And this goes hand in hand with the implications we have already mentioned. Another teacher said, "We are hoping for a radical change in the Algerian education system," and this shows that there is dissatisfaction from some teachers about what's going on in our education system. And thank you very much for your attention, and try to enjoy these pictures from my town, Béjaïa, Algeria, as I'm acting as an ambassador of my country. Thank you very much for watching, and we are pleased to share these views from our teachers and their experiences, their attitudes, and it is a very good opportunity to say that our teachers are following professional developments by their own, mainly during and after the pandemic, and teachers are willing to make changes and care about our students' level and students' being as an individual. Thank you very much for watching.